Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's been a while, I know. I'm sorry, a lot has happened and I hope you didn't think I got lost in South America and I disappeared, I got kidnapped or I died or whatever. That's not the case, luckily. At some point I just stopped doing the vlogs and there was never any explication from my side for that, so I figured I wanna do a wrap-up video from the rest of the trip. So yeah, I'd just say let's get right into it. The last vlog that is on my YouTube channel is from Cordoba, and of course, because I stopped vlogging, there are not gonna be any more vlogs on YouTube from that trip. But of course, I kept posting on Instagram. I kept sharing pictures, videos, and what I'm about to show you and go through with you, you can find on my Instagram, which is Lena Maria Music. But I'm just gonna start where I stopped posting the YouTube vlogs, which was San Luis. So after my time in Cordoba, I went to San Luis, and now we're just gonna go through all the posts until the end of the trip, so I can also still give you some insights, because there are definitely still some cool stories. I've met really cool people and I've had great experiences as well, so I still wanna be able to share that with the world. Why did the focus leave me again? Oh my god. Okay. Then this one, San Luis, you can see here. This is the bus station when I arrived. And then I also just went outside, went for a walk, checked out the surroundings a little bit, because I also only stayed for one night. Why I stopped there was actually only because I didn't want to take this very long trip from Cordoba to Mendoza. I didn't want to go all the way through, so I figured why not just make a stop. As you can see here, yeah, it was very hot again. That was so beautiful. That actually looks like Austria. If we're honest, if you tell someone, yeah, that was in Austria, they would believe it, no? Very nice view, the lake, the mountains, pretty. Oh yeah, and there were these kittens, they were so cute. That was when I walked back to the hostel at night. Yeah, here you can see one night layover in San Luis. And then I went to Mendoza the next day. There's not a lot to say about that, I guess. I'm really just gonna, you know, lead you through the pictures, and if I have something to explain or to comment, then I will just do that. For example, right here, this fountain, there was like a... Wait, where is that? Ah! Ha! No, okay, yeah. That's in a highlight. That's in a story highlight. At this park, there actually was a different fountain where in the evening they had the light show, like a fountain light show. The video of that I posted into my story highlight from Mendoza. If you want to see even more, also make sure to go through the story highlights that I have on my profile on Instagram. I created one for every place. So there's one Buenos Aires, Rosario, Mendoza, Cordoba. Then let's keep going. Oh yes, oh my god, that was the landscape when I crossed over to Chile from Argentina. I went from Mendoza to Santiago de Chile, and the views were amazing. I think that was like a 7-hour-ish, 7-8 hour bus ride. And of course, we also had to do the border control. The bus stopped and then all of us had to get off with all of our luggage. It was, you know, similar to being at the airport. The luggage went through a radar thing to control the contents of the luggage, and we had to show our passports. For example, I think they asked me how long I would be staying in Chile, and then here you can see the border, Argentina, Chile, We were just crossing right here by the Cristo Redentor de los Andes. And then, oh yes, that's a different post that I already showed that to you in a previous video from the teeny concert that I went to. So I'm just gonna leave that right here if you want to see that as well. Either go on my Instagram profile or, even better, watch the video from the Futura show in Chile. And then, oh my god, yeah, I love this picture. The flag from Chile, the sky is so blue, and yeah, it was just a wonderful day. Oh wait, I think actually that was the view from the Airbnb I stayed in, because in Santiago de Chile I booked another Airbnb. In Mendoza I stayed at a hostel, in San Luis as well for that one night, in Cordoba as well. In Rosario I had an Airbnb, and in Buenos Aires as well. Yeah, and then I just love this picture, the sunset, it looks so pretty. And then just imagine living there. I don't know how many levels that has, but it's pretty high, and then there are so many flats in there. Yeah, that was funny, I bought bread, and here it literally says Austria. So yeah, you're never really away from home, I guess. Yep, and one day I wasn't doing so well again, so there's not a lot to explain, but whenever I post a vulnerable video on TikTok, for example, or a picture on Instagram, people don't really understand that, I feel like, because they're like, why are you sharing when you're not doing well? People just want to see the good things, and that's exactly where I'm out. I want to be authentic, and to be authentic, you just have to share everything. Like, you know, not literally everything, like no private details, blah blah blah, but of course also no one is forced to post a picture of them crying or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying, but it's not a crime if people do. Because I also didn't want to transmit the feeling for people that, you know, the whole trip was amazing, it was great, I was so happy, because that was not the case. And actually a lot of the time when I was in South America, I was doing pretty bad. And yeah, that's just what I do. I also include stuff like that in my posts and in the things I share, because it's the truth. And I don't want to make it seem like everything's perfect. Obviously, we all know that nothing's ever perfect, but yeah, to me that's just important, okay? Like I don't mind showing myself like that, because it's a part of me and I don't want to be artificial. Social media is really artificial. Everything's just like, you know, shown on the surface, and usually it's only the good moments and the highlights and the great things. But to me, that wouldn't feel right, only sharing the happy moments. Actually, I think I remember that was the day of the concert, so in the afternoon I was laying in bed, crying, being pretty miserable, and then, you know, I just got up, got dressed, cheered myself up a little bit, and went to the stadium to watch the show. Oh yeah, that was a very nice viewpoint. Yeah, and actually there's a story I can tell about going up, or rather later going down from that viewpoint. Because going up, you know, I was just looking on Google Maps and I took the bus. It was like a 15-20 minute bus ride from the place that I stayed at to this park, and then there was a trail to walk up, which was also very exhausting. It was super hot, but it was not a road. Runners and hikers, you know, would take that path to go up there. I would say that took me maybe like 30 minutes, something like that. And then going down was not so cool. In the end, I really almost, you know, got lost, because I was like, I don't want to walk back the exact way that I came. And also I figured if I just follow the road, there was a literal road as well where cars also came up. So I just started walking down the other way, and I kept walking and walking and walking and, you know, checking Google Maps again to see where I am and how far I am from the main street. And as I was watching the sunset before, you can imagine it was already getting dark, so I didn't really feel very comfortable walking there by myself. And luckily, thank God, there were two other girls who I think at first were also walking behind me, and then at some point they overtook me. And then sometimes there were some bikers going downhill, people with skateboards. But in the end, as it was already pretty dark, there were really not any people left but those two girls. And then at some point, because I also saw that they were struggling and they were like checking their phones, and I also could hear them talk because they talked in Spanish. And then we just started talking and all of us were lost and didn't really know the way down. And then we asked someone, because there was like I think it was like a parking space where also someone was who seemed like he knew where we had to go. And then he told us where we have to keep going to get down. The girls were so nice. Actually, yeah, they both were from Chile, and one of them lives in Berlin. They still went out with some friends because they actually were on their way to a bar. And then when we were on the main road, also where all these bars were, I just kept walking to the bus station and took the bus back. Yeah, that's about that. Ooh, okay. And now, ladies and gentlemen, comes, I would say, the best part or the highlight of my Latin America trip. So from Santiago de Chile, I went over to Valparaíso, which was only a 2-hour bus ride. On that bus to Valparaíso, I met a girl, and that was destiny as well. Let me tell you why. Because both of our reservations, both of our seats were changed like last minute, because she would have been seated next to her friend who she went to Valparaíso with from Santiago, but then she ended up sitting next to me. And you know, then we started talking. She asked me where I'm from, whatever. And of course, usually people were really surprised when they found out I was traveling all by myself in South America. And her name is Daniela. She was so sweet from the very start. We got off the bus. Then I also met her guy friend, whose name is Bruno, and they asked me, how are you getting to your hostel now? And I was like, I don't know, I was just gonna take a bus, I guess. And they were like, yeah, no, that's not really a good idea. And so then they offered me to order an Uber so that actually I could go with them by Uber, because they were also taking an Uber from the bus station to their friend's house. And then they just put in the address from my hostel as well. So the first destination was their friend's place. They got off there, and then the Uber driver also drove me to my hostel. And that already was such a nice thing to do from them. And of course we kept talking a little bit, what my plans were and everything. And I remember that was Valentine's Day, actually. That was the 14th of February. And then they invited me to go out with them in the evening. So we obviously exchanged our contacts. And, you know, I just checked into the hostel, chilled for a bit, because obviously I also was exhausted. And I remember also I was pretty low on energy and I, wasn't doing great. So I just took the afternoon to rest in my hostel bed. When I arrived at the hostel, I got off the Uber, and then I had to check on Google Maps where exactly the entrance from the hostel was, because I was a bit lost on that street. I didn't know where exactly the hostel was. So I took out my phone and was trying to find the entrance, and then an elderly woman walked by and she was like, "Girl, put your phone away, this is dangerous." So that was my first encounter with a local, when I was told to put my phone away, to take care, to just not be outside with my phone in my hand because someone will rob me, they will steal it. So she basically kind of scared me off, And later in the story, there will be another situation like that, so just keep that in mind. And I'm so glad that in the end, I met up with them. And in the end, that was 5 people and me. We went to a resto kind of thing, resto bar, which was called Hotzenplotz, which is actually a German name. It's like a German story book, TV show, whatever. Der Räuber Hotzenplotz. So if you're my age or older and you're from Austria or Germany, you probably know that. So that was super nice to just sit there with them outside, having drinks and talking. And they were just all so welcoming, and I really needed that also at that time. So I was super happy, and it was just amazing spending the evening with them, especially Valentine's Day. So I didn't have to be all by myself and sad and kind of depressed, you know. I'm still not done. This story continues before I can continue showing you the pictures, because you need some context. And after that place, we were still looking for a bar kind of thing, because that was a Friday as well, I think. It was a Saturday. And then we also went into a bar later that night. No, actually, no, wait, that's the wrong order. I think at first we couldn't really find anything because there were just so many people outside and all the bars were full. So then we went back to Danny's friend's place, and their friend's name is Pia. I hope I'm not confusing you with all of this. And we were just sitting in the living room and talking with her parents, because they all live together in this house. And so, you know, then also at some point her mom was like, where are you staying actually? Then I told her as well, yeah, the Perro Guaton. And earlier when we were already talking, when I was outside with the friend group, they all were kind of surprised why I was staying at that hostel, because it seemed pretty shady to them, the location and everything. And so that's when they also told me what Perro Guaton means. And then they said, yeah, that just means the fat dog, basically. So that's why they made fun of the name of the hostel that I was staying at. And also there in Valparaiso, there are a lot of stray dogs. And Pia told me that there is actually one specific dog that they call the Perro Guaton. It's famous in Valparaiso, apparently, because people just feed the dogs so much. Anyways, I told her mom, yeah, at the Perro Guaton. Then also, you know, the others told her like, yeah, it didn't really sit right with them. And then her mom was like, yeah, but then why don't you just come here and stay with us instead? Then you can save some money, you can walk outside and come back whenever you want. You will have more time to explore Valparaiso and everything around here. And at first I was like, yeah, I don't know, like, should I stay with them? Can I do that? Because also, that's just insane that people from South America specifically, they are so nice and friendly, and it's just crazy. They didn't even know me basically, and they invited me into their house to stay with them, to sleep at their place, to eat with them, to just live with them basically. And that would never ever happen to you here in Europe. Like, no way. Also, you know, when I tell people that story, especially when I told it to my family, they were like, oh my god, Lena, how can you do something like that? Because also, you know, I didn't know these people, obviously. But of course I knew they didn't have any bad intentions. They were just such nice people. And I also got along so well with the whole friend group and everything. But then to continue with that specific night, after we stayed at the house for a while, we went outside again, and that was when we went to this other bar. But then my first night in Valparaiso, which was that night, I still stayed at the hostel, because also I had all of my stuff there, of course. So I ordered an Uber to get there, because also I was like, yeah, it's not even too far from here, right? I could also just walk. And no, Valparaiso is or can be pretty dangerous. So even the people who live there say that. And not even they would walk back home late at night. And so they said to me, no, you just take an Uber, order an Uber. And then the next day, that was when I was outside walking around exploring the place, there was another huge coincidence. Just like how I met Dani on the bus, and that was, which really was a bit shady, I was walking, then a woman from there was like, hey, girl, you're not from here, right? Just turn around and walk back that way. Because she told me like that area I was in was dangerous and I shouldn't walk there, especially if I'm not from there. People will rob me, whatever. So she advised me to just turn around and walk back the other way, because the other way led to the more touristic part. And then while I was still talking with her, a man also passed by, and then he was like, what's going on, blah blah blah. And then she told him, yeah, I just told her to go back and because she's not from here and da 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 da. And then that guy, and that was like a 50-60-year-old guy, he was like, oh, I'm actually just coming from the beach, I'm walking that way as well, so if you want I can walk with you. And I was like, yeah, okay. So then at least I didn't have to walk back all by myself. And you know, we just obviously started talking and had the usual conversation of, you know, where I was from, what I'm doing, how long I'm there, blah 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 blah. And then he offered me to give me a tour, that he would show me around in Valparaiso, because he's from there. I think he was from there. And I was like, yeah, why not? And then we walked to a viewpoint as well. And when we were passing by some people and some benches, guess who was sitting there? It was my new friends from the day before. And I was like, oh my god, you're here, hi, how are you? They obviously also saw who I was with. And then also that guy was like, are you coming with me or staying with them? So like literally he sounded a bit aggressive. That's also what my friends said later on. And actually I was so happy that we literally ran into them, that I saw them sitting there. So I didn't even have to think about that. I was like, yeah, no, thank you. I'm just gonna stay here with my friends. And then I think we walked to Pia's house again, and that was when we picked up my bags from the hostel and brought them to the house. So also Bruno and Dani, they were going back to Santiago that day. Pia's dad and me, we were in the car with them, bringing them to the bus station. And then I think we just drove to the hostel. I packed my stuff, also talked to the receptionist and tried to get my money back. I was hoping for that. And in the end, I really did. They gave me back the money for the 2 more nights that I had reserved. And then I moved in with my new Chilean friends' family. And they also were like, yeah, you can just stay here. Of course, like, as long as you want. But yeah, why don't you just stay here until the 28th, until Pia's birthday? And at first I was like, oh my god, but that's so long. I cannot stay here with you for 2 whole weeks. Guess what happened? In the end I did. So I lived with a Chilean family in Valparaiso for 2 weeks, which was such a great experience. When you're traveling, you know, it's different. If you go somewhere and you stay at a hostel, you stay at a hotel, an Airbnb, whatever, or if you really have the chance to live with a family that is from there, that has lived there maybe their whole life, that was just crazy that I could experience that, and I'm very grateful for that. I even had my own room, and yeah, what should I say, you know, after having stayed in hostels a lot and just being exhausted from traveling and just being in a rush always, or always being on the move, always being on the go and not wanting to waste any single day of your trip because you have to go outside, you have to explore, you only have a limited amount of time at a certain place. It was so nice to really just be there with them and not having, also not putting any pressure on myself, because I was like, okay, now maybe I really can just chill for a few days. This is my house now as well. That's literally what they say, like, this is your home as well. When you're hungry, just go to the fridge, take whatever's there. And that's what I like so much about South America, about this whole culture. People are so open, they're so friendly, welcoming. Of course, I guess not all of them, but the majority. That's just also part of the culture. And then so another interesting thing about Chile that I learned, and probably only learned because I had the chance to stay with a local family, is that what they do for dinner, it's called tomar once. Once is 11 in Spanish, and tomar is like to take, but also means drink or eat. So they have once at like 6 in the evening, and don't ask me why it's called once, but it was always around, you know, 6 in the evening. And usually what they have is like tea, black tea, and bread with palta, which is avocado, cheese, ham, things like that. And also because palta, the avocado, for me always was aguacate in Spanish, because in Spain it's called aguacate. When I first arrived to Chile, I learned that it's actually called palta there, which is also so cool. That's such a nice thing from traveling, that you just learn things like that. Staying with Pia and her family, I learned a lot of other things as well. And maybe actually, because usually I write new things down and new words. There we go, yeah, Chile, la palta, aguacate in Spain is avocado. Oh yeah, also, you know, they have different currencies in every country of South America. In Chile they have a 1,000 peso bill, and that is called, that's like how Chilean people call it, like slang, luca. Like if you say tengo 3 lucas, means I have 3,000 pesos. Oh yeah, and then another one that I really like is cachai, which literally means did you catch it? Did you understand? Cachai. In my Spanish, like the version I know, would be like sabes lo que te quiero decir? Do you know what I'm saying? And then in Chile they just say cachai. That's so cool. Oh, and then another very specific one from Chile is the po. In the Spanish from Spain, it would be pues. For example, pues no sé qué vamos a hacer. Well, I don't know what we will be doing. And then the pues just becomes po. Sí po. No po. Sí po, güeyón. Like that's just so Chilean. Also the güeyón, which is like friend, dude. And then if someone says sí po, of course, also I guess depends on the context, but would be something like, yeah, of course, sí po. No po. No. Like, what do you think? No. I think you know what I'm saying, right? ¿Cachai? Did you get it? Did you catch it? Ooh, another one. Tienes tuto, which in my version of Spanish would be tienes sueño. Are you tired? So that's also maybe slang, I would say. Ooh, and then another very specific one is harto. I think that's used in Latin America in general, and you can translate it to a lot. Much, many. For example, in Spanish, like in my Spanish, you could either say un montón, muchísimo, bastante, and there they say harto. Había harta gente, había harto viento, there were a lot of people, there was a lot of wind. Oh yeah, and then go out to party in Chile is called carretear. Party, go out, salir. Salir de fiesta is what I would say in Spanish. Go out to party, literally. Carretear. Ayer fuimos a carretear. Nos curamos harto. I think you could say that because also, yeah, I didn't even write that there, but curarse means to get drunk. How would I say that? Yeah, emborracharse. Hoy me voy a curar. Today I will get drunk. I'm just gonna add that to my list. Emborracharse. Curarse. And another one I learned just by, you know, always hearing it, always hearing people use it, is apúrate, which means be quick, hurry up. In Spain, they would say something like, vamos, venga, come on, let's go, let's get going. Apúrate. That's a bit more specific what they use in Chile. Apúrate. Come on, let's go. Hurry up. Yeah, so those were the words. The ones I wrote down. I guess I learned a lot more than that during my time in Chile. Where was I? Yeah, I was talking about that I learned that avocado is called palta in Chile when I was talking about the once. So we used to do that together, and of course also Pia had to work during the week, so really I could do whatever I wanted. And I think at least the first few days I did spend a fair amount of time just chilling in my room, and it was just so nice. A comfortable bed, being on my phone, reading a little bit, also still cutting videos because I was still cutting the vlogs because I had so much footage. So anyways, now you know the backstory that I stayed with Pia and her family. Pia and I one evening went to the Dunas de Concon, which is on the coast, dunes, because her brother was taking the car anyways to go to his football practice, and he just took us with him and later picked us up again. And yeah, that was the sunset at the dunas. Super pretty. You can see so many people there, and of course there were a lot more coming for sunset. Look at this view. And then this is Valparaíso, Valpo, how they call it as well. I don't know if you've ever heard of that place, but it's just known worldwide, I think, because they have all these colored houses. There are so many street art paintings on the walls, on the houses. Oh yeah, and a lot of stairs, a lot of having to go up. They have a lot of cerros. Cerro is hill. For example, there's the Cerro Alegre, Cerro Concepcion, Cerro whatever. A lot of... Okay, actually, let me just show you. Look, so this is Valparaíso, Cerro Alegre. The pictures just look crazy. So as I said, for example, Cerro Alegre, Cerro Concepcion, Ascensor Concepcion. The ascensores are the elevators, which you also can see here. And they are very ancient. One time I took one for Chilean people. It's super cheap. It's like 200 pesos, which would be like 20 cents. And then for extranjeros, for people that are not from Chile, I think it was 1,000 pesos, like €1, or was it even 150? But with Pia, one time I also took an ascensor. Here there's another Cerro Cordillera, and there are just a lot. I can actually, let me Google cuántos cerros hay en Valparaíso. How many cerros are there in Valparaíso? 42. Yeah, like around 40. And this area here is like the more touristic one. And as you can imagine, the streets sometimes are very steep. That's the harbor. Oh yeah, and also that's what I saw in Valparaíso for the first time. This sign for tsunami situations. The evacuation route for tsunamis. Oh yeah, and this is my group of friends. And that was the evening that I met all of them at the Hotzenplotz. And also there, I drank Fanta for the first time in South America. Look at that. Just look at that. It's crazy how different it looks to our Fanta here in Europe. It was super extremely sweet. It's not very enjoyable. Yeah, and then some more impressions from Valparaíso. I think that was the afternoon of my arrival in Valparaíso, when I was staying at the hostel before I met up with my friends. And I told you I wasn't doing great, so you can see that there. I was pretty low and bad, but then the rest of the evening turned out amazing, thanks to all these amazing people. And then, oh yeah, this was the view from my room, Pia's room actually, but my home during that time. That gives such vacation vibes, and people literally live there. You have palm trees here, the sun is shining, the sky is so blue, and if you look closely there, you can see the sea. I was so sunburned in that picture. Oh my god, if you zoom in you can see it. Another cerro, Cerro Carcel. Yeah, look at the buildings and the designs, that's just crazy. Yeah, that's me with Pia. She's such a corazón, she's such a sweetheart. Oh yeah, that is Brownie, their dog, one of their dogs. Oh, look at them. And, oh my god, what was her name? I forgot her name, but it's a she. That's what I remember. And then I made my way to Pucón, because also Pia's dad, I think, at some point was like, yeah, and then when you stay with us, you can also just do a short trip to some place close to here where you don't have to bring all your luggage. You can just take your small backpack. For 3 nights I stayed in Pucón, which was amazing. So you can see here, amazing views, mountains. They have a volcano as well. There it is. Oh yeah, mate, that's an Argentinian drink. The receptionist at the hostel I stayed at shared that with me because he was a volunteer there and he's Argentinian. That's the national drink from Argentina. Oh, yeah, I know what's coming now. Oh, I got another very long story for that. Yeah, but first, look, the saltos, it's called, waterfalls. Yeah, also, in Spain, I think they would say cascada. Yeah, so I visited some saltos during my time there. This one's the Salto El León. Huge tree, it has a name, it's called El Abuelo, which is the grandpa, because it says it's 650 years old. That was back in Pucón for sunset. Yeah, wow. So yeah, now next story. Okay, come a bit closer. This one might also take a while. First of all, I told you about this Argentinian volunteer that I met at the hostel. I also met an Austrian girl, actually. That was cool because I hadn't met any Austrian before that in South America. I think in the end I only met two Austrian girls, and she was also volunteering there at the hostel. So with her, one time I did a day trip to one of the national parks where the waterfalls were, and then we also did this Captain Jack Sparrow water war boat thing together with some other people. But then when I went to Salto El León, that was crazy, because transportation there in Pucón, it wasn't very you don't really know where a bus leaves from, and it's not very organized, I feel like, or at least for tourists it's not, you know, you can get very lost. And then the thing is, to get to this waterfall, the bus only took you along the main road. Let me show you that so you can imagine. So here's the Salto El León. And then I went there from Pucón. Where is it? There it is. This is Pucón, the town I stayed at. The hostel was there. And then there was a bus driving from here on this road, but only until somewhere around here, I guess. All this way, you either had to walk, you could also call a taxi, which I didn't want to do because I didn't want to pay for a taxi. Or you could also hitchhike, which also the Austrian girl and I did together when we went to this other place. Of course, as you can imagine, it was very hot again. I got off the bus and I started walking. I just started walking along one of these small roads. And I was just hoping to be able to hitchhike, that someone would take me, because I guess only people who go to these different waterfalls along the way, they drive there. So the people who go there and the people who go back. So I figured the chances are high that someone could just take me with them. And it took so long until, first of all, someone stopped, and also in the end someone took me for a bit. I think I was walking along that road by myself in the heat more than an hour, I think. Because also I knew I cannot walk. I will not walk. I don't want to walk all the way to the waterfall, because that would have been so far. I think that would have been like 3 hours of walking in the burning heat. And then, you know, I was showing my thumb when I heard cars coming from behind, and most of them just didn't care. They didn't stop, they just passed by, which already disappointed me. And I was like, oh my god, this might be harder than I thought. I think so. The first one that stopped, I asked him where he was going, and he wasn't going to this exact same place I wanted to go. So I was like, oh yeah, no, then it's fine, thank you, which was stupid in the end. And also later I thought, oh my god, I could have just gone with him for a bit, just that I wouldn't have needed to walk so much more. Well, that was my first mistake, so then I had to keep walking. And then it took another while until another car stopped, which was actually more like a sprinter. And the problem there was that they were already almost at their destination. But they took me, I think it was like 3 more minutes by car until they arrived where they wanted to go. But at least, you know, I didn't have to walk that part. And then I kept walking. And then was when my saviors came. It was an Argentinian family, actually. 2 boys and their mom, their dad. They had 1 spot left in the car. And so look, here, this is the Salto El León, where I wanted to go originally. And here on the way is the Salto La China, and that's where they were going. And so they were like, yeah, we're actually going there. Do you want to come there with us as well? And then I was like, yeah, actually, why not? And they also were like, yeah, because the other one is not too far from that anymore. That was like only 1 kilometer apart. So I was like, I could also just still walk that later to still get to my destination. So they took me there with them. And really, I think the car ride from where they picked me up to that place was still like 10-15 minutes, something like that. And then at the parking space we parted, and you know, there was this one waterfall which was the attraction basically. So then we also saw each other again, and they saw me where I took these pictures, and that one for example, and they saw me there. And then before they returned to the car, they screamed at me, and they were like, Lena, we're leaving. Do you want to come? Should we take you? And I was like, no, thank you, it's fine. I will just walk there, because I still stayed there at this waterfall for a bit longer. And then I just walked to the Salto El León. And then there I walked to the waterfall as well, took some pictures, rested for a bit. And then, as the universe wanted it, there were so many coincidences. Because, you know, I was already thinking, oh my god, now I have to do the same thing again and try to find someone, hopefully, who will take me to the main street so I can take a bus from there to get back to Pucón. But in the end, that wasn't necessary, because when I was on my way out of the park where the parking spaces were, guess who I saw? The Argentinian family was sitting at a bench, they were having ice cream, and I was like, hey, you're also done. And then, yeah, of course, they offered me to take me with them, which was literally the best thing that could have happened in that moment. Because, yeah, surprise, they were also staying in Pucón. Not only did they take me with them to the main street, no, I didn't even have to take another bus. I just could go back to Pucón, to my hostel, with them all the way by car. And of course, after this whole day and the heat and walking that much, I was so done. I was so exhausted, so that was very good. It was just perfect. I'm still in contact with them as well. We're talking from time to time, and also they said if I ever come back to South America, Argentina, I have to visit them and they will invite me for a mate. They are from Bariloche, which is in the south of Argentina, like, yeah, in the more southern part. So yeah, that's how you meet people. That's how you connect with people from all over the world, traveling. It's crazy. And really, they all were so nice. I just love when you make connections like these. That's probably the most special thing about traveling. It's not even only the places you go to, but it's more the people you meet and who make your experience special. Okay, then back to Pucón. Bienvenidos a Pucón. Oh yeah, a street dog. There are so many street dogs in South America in general. In Argentina as well, there were a lot, but everywhere. Also in Peru, in Chile. It's just how it is. And as I told you about, you know, the perro guatón in Valparaíso, people just live with them, like they just coexist. They even feed them, they give them water because the temperatures are crazy. I saw that sometimes that, for example, some workers who were, I don't know, like working on a building or something or on the street, they would just give water and food to the dogs. That's just so nice. More waterfalls. That was where I went to with my Austrian friend. And then Viña del Mar, which is next to Valparaíso. I went surfing there for the first time in my life. At least I tried, okay? But also, guys, I'm gonna wrap this video up right here. I've been recording for so long, it's getting dark outside. You can see that the light has changed. I'm just gonna keep recording this video maybe tomorrow. We will just continue right here in Viña. And also what I still wanted to say about Pucón, the bus ride to Pucón from Valparaíso with, I think, 2 hours of overlay in Santiago. Was it 14 or 12 hours? Let me check that. Yeah, it says 12 hours by public transport. So yeah, I had to go to Santiago again, and then from there a direct bus all the way down to Pucón. If you look here, this is Chile. Chile is a very long country here in the west of South America. Santiago, the capital city, is in the middle basically. And then from here I went more to the south. Still not all the way, because you can go until down here. For example, the Torres del Paine, where is that? That's a national park, which is... ah yeah, here for example. Also very famous. And not even that is all the way in the south. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this part. There's more to come, but I'm just gonna stop recording for today, so see you next time. Bye!